How do you get to the point where you're grateful for losing $12 million? That doesn't even sound real. Because if you're somebody like me who doesn't come from money, didn't have $12 million to lose, and yet you did. And just some backstory on this. So I sold my highly successful flower businesses in California back in 2020 for $15 million in private shares of the company that bought mine. And my take on that was 12, roughly, give or take. And, you know, when you take private shares, it's a risk. And I knew that. But nobody ever thinks it's going to go to zero. And it did. I found this out in 2024. The company that bought mine was supposed to go public, and then the shares would be liquid. And, you know, but the company that was supposed to go public, in which I held private shares, essentially went bankrupt in 2024. I was by no means the only person that lost out. Lots and lots of people lost more than me. And I was criticized by some of the people closest to me for taking that deal, for taking like a private share deal. The thing is, at the time, and I think this is still true today, nobody was writing checks for flower companies. It was private shares or you don't sell. So, you know, I had a team of attorneys, I had consultants. Everybody took the loss because everybody got paid in shares. It wasn't just me. Actually, the attorneys did get paid a check from me. But everybody else got bent over the same way I did. I'd had a feeling that something was going to happen. I didn't think it was ever going to collapse the way that it did. Because this was everything I had. This was my retirement, my savings, my future, not just for me, but for people close to me. More than that, it was 11 years of my life that were just gone. That was just gone. At the time, I kind of took it really well, seemingly, and then it hit me about January 1st of 2025, and I kind of went into the fetal position and sucked my thumb for a few weeks. But that was also, you know, kind of towards the beginning of the end of my marriage, and I honestly didn't think that I would ever get to a point where I would say I was grateful for that. I was like, who the fuck even says that? What I learned from surrendering everything at that point, because that was essentially rock bottom. It was almost everything I had, almost. Oh, there's my ears. But at that point, where I'm looking at my life, you know, at the time, 52, turning 53 years old, going, what the actual fuck just happened? And how do I rebuild from this? And just at that point, just really turning it over to God's source spirit and going, make this fucking make sense. Make this make sense. Because I got nothing at this point. Like literally, I got nothing. And that kind of kicked off a spiritual awakening that I didn't really ask for. I mean, I guess I asked for it. I didn't see coming, to where I took the deepest dive of my life into my limiting beliefs, my shadows, my inner child, all of my shit around fear and visibility and self-worth. It cost me my marriage. And that's not even true. My marriage was over before that. But my marriage fell out in the midst of all this, which was a blessing also. And as a result, I spent months in isolation by myself, figuring this shit out, connecting with things I didn't even believe in, God, Jesus, archangels. And now I'm in a new part of the country on a totally new trajectory. I know my soul's purpose. I know what I came here to do. I don't have any fucking idea how that's going to happen. The how is not my job. The how is 100% not my job. And probably the biggest takeaway, the reality that hit me when I was spending months in isolation is that I had to lose that money. I had to. Because if that 12 million had ever actually shown up in my bank account, I never would have woken the fuck up. I never would have went on this whole spiritual journey. So if that $12 million loss was the tuition, if that's what it cost for me to find myself, to discover my soul's purpose, to discover my soul, my self-worth, to finally learn how to love myself, to walk in sovereignty, then I would pay it again, because that's what I'm worth. And where I go from here, I don't know. I wrote one book at the end of my flower journey. The algorithm doesn't like it when I say the real word. And that book won 10 awards. It's now out of print, and I'm working on getting a new book deal for that, along with book 2, which is currently in the works. Lots of juicy material that $12 million loss gave me, but there's still a lot I have to figure out. And the journey's not over yet. In some ways, it's just getting really interesting. But wherever you are, whatever you've gone through, it's not a loss. It's never a loss. Ever, 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 ever. Just keep going. Find yourself at whatever cost, literally. But keep going. Love you. Bye.